I've been learning Arabic and I've never been able to make it over a A2 through self-study. My most recent break has been about a year of not doing anything with it. And now that I know that I am going to be able to study Arabic for about 3 months in Jordan this year, I'm planning to meet my goal of taking their placement exam in August so that I can automatically be placed into their B2 course. That means I have a little bit of over 3 months to plan accordingly. The very first thing that I'm going to establish is a base resource. For this base resource, I am using the book series Speaking Arabic by Minerva. Now, this is the series that I have found to be best organized in terms of teaching me the grammar in a non-overwhelming way, specifically for Palestinian Arabic, as well as introducing the necessary cultural expressions that a beginner, early, intermediate learner would really need in order to navigate in an Arabic-speaking country. I did use this resource previously, about a year ago, before I took that big break from Arabic, for books 1 and a little bit of book 2. And I really enjoyed it. I found it helpful. That is one of the things that I always suggest to other language learners who are looking to refresh a language and really meet a goal with a tight deadline, to really think about what resources were the most helpful, the most engaging, and the most organized. A few other reasons I picked it was because it does have an answer key. This is ideal when you are picking your base resource because, as we know, Arabic in general, even the dialects, are very diverse in their pronunciation and how they express specific ideas. And it gets really demotivating for me over time if I keep on guessing an answer for a textbook exercise and then I just never know the answer without having to go to a native speaker when they're not always available. So, love the answer key for this. Also, I picked the book because it has great pronunciation markings. And of course, as we know in Arabic, it's sometimes hard to figure out what vowels go where when they're not usually included in Arabic script. I already know how to read Arabic script, but for really improving my knowledge and building upon reading more complicated words eventually, I definitely want to be pronouncing the words I already know at a more basic level really well before building on that solid foundation. Now, let's look at this base resource itself more in detail. The book series is divided into books 1, 2, 3, and 4, each corresponding to the CEFR language scale levels. So book 1 is equivalent to finishing A1, book 2, A2, book 3, B1, and then book 4 is equivalent to finishing B2 in Palestinian Arabic. And the way the books are already well spaced out and organized, that means that it's a lot less planning on my side to have to split up all the information that the books are giving me and really make sure that I'm assigning each book by the individual month, all leading up to when I have to take the placement exam in late August. For the next 2 weeks, I'm concentrating on just reviewing book 1. I am on lesson 5 currently, and my Arabic study sessions, since I am also planning to take a 4-hour Turkish course on top of this daily starting next week, I know that I will not be dedicating all of my language study time just to Arabic. So I am estimating in order to finish this book in about 2 weeks, be taking anywhere from 15 minutes on low energy days to 1.5 hours on high energy days, and still not be burned out by taking such a long Turkish course in the background. Now, book 1, again, is just a really good review of the necessary hellos, goodbyes, and building sentences. However, it also gives me really good review of how to form verbs and how those verb patterns are pronounced in Palestinian Arabic specifically. As I go through book 1, I plan to take notes, like you see right here actually, for documenting helpful phrases, which you can see here. And this more for me is to make sure that I'm remembering to put vocabulary in context and pair that vocabulary with grammar, or remembering particular, more natural ways of saying things. For example, I've noticed that Arabic speakers tend to say, it wants time or money. So they would probably use بده وقت or بده مصاري, right? Whatever they're talking about for the subject. But as a native English speaker, I'd probably want to say instead, it needs money or it needs time. So those are just some of the really small notes that I have made sure to take note of in my sheets. I have also included really basic words like beit and biyut, always noting and refreshing that I am noting the plural forms of each singular vocabulary word that I'm learning. And as you can see here, I've written additional just grammar rule reminders. For example, about prepositions or about the sun letters. And all of this just serves as a really quick reference for me as I keep on going through book 2, book 3, book 4, and I can always, instead of looking back at the physical book, if I have less time, I can just go back and refer to my notes and just have a really quick review. I also like to write all of my notes out because it really helps me to still practice writing in some Arabic. Now, in addition to working and finishing book 1 in these next few weeks, I am also going to be listening to Levantine with Livy, one of my absolute favorite podcasts for learning Levantine Arabic specifically. And I've already listened to the first 10 episodes, I don't even know how many times, back before I took a break with Arabic. So I'm already familiar with each of the topics, which is really good because this podcast is definitely above my level. I literally plan to put each of the podcast episodes on repeat as I am walking to class, taking a walk through Istanbul where I'm currently in, and I'll continuously just rotate through the same 10 episodes to again really have that contact with more advanced vocabulary words that I used to know before my break with Arabic, but that I am now refreshing. And I find this to be a less pressure-filled way to remember and retain that vocabulary over time if it is already integrated into my routine of walking. And I'll devote anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour for this sort of passive listening vocabulary retention. Now, after 2 weeks, that is when I'm planning to start book 2, which is technically in June. Now, I am expecting that books 2 through 4 are going to be a lot slower for me to go through in comparison to book 1, just because book 1 was a lot of review already. So that's why in June, I will be upping my time of study for Arabic from max 1 hour per day to anywhere from 1 to 3 times per day. Again, I'm a type of language learner that really has to pay attention to my energy levels. That's why I don't like to have a set strict time limit for how much I have to study every single day. Anywhere from 1 to 3 hours per day works for me really well. I will do the same thing for Arabic, taking notes just like I did for book 1, for also book 2, including having vocabulary and context, writing down grammar rules, and making sure that I'm setting at least anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes per day, 3 times per week, reviewing my notes that I took from book 1. In June, I also plan to include more listening resources so I can get a variety of speakers that I am still listening to in Arabic. And the way that I'm going to do this is watch Made. Now, I've watched this series so many times on Netflix, so I already know the plot really well. And luckily for me, it is available in completely dubbed Syrian Arabic. So I just plan to watch this whenever I have free time, not really putting a limit on it. I also prefer at this point in my learning to only listen to non-native Arabic speakers, such as Livy on the Learn Levantine with Livy podcast. She, I believe, is a native English speaker from the UK, or dubbing of TV shows. I find that it's a little bit too overwhelming for me to go automatically into a show where natives are speaking. And by the end of June, I will have expected to finish book 2 and be starting book 3. For July, I am planning to continue with book 3 because I know already in advance I will be taking Turkish classes for only half that month. But I will also be taking a 2-week vacation as well for the last half of that month of July. So I'm planning accordingly. For the first part of July, where I will still be taking Turkish classes on the side, I will give 1 hour of dedication to Arabic on weekdays and then give 2 hours of dedication to it on weekends. I'll be doing the same thing for book 3, taking notes about vocabulary, about different expressions, grammar rules, and at the end of each study session for book 3, I will also be setting aside anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to review my notes from book 1 and book 2, about 4 times per week. At this point, when we are midway through reaching my goal of B1, I will start incorporating more authentic listening into my learning routine. So that means I will start using Syrian Arabic voices. It is a great resource from Lingualism that I highly recommend. And native speakers are talking, and they're talking about subjects that are very, very interesting in regards to their life in Syria and how they are adapting to life after having to immigrate to another country. And the book also comes with a complete transcript in both Arabic script as well as transcribed Latin script, and it comes with free audio on the website. At this point, I will also be including 2 60-minute long conversation classes per week with my Syrian Arabic tutor, and we will be focusing on topics, talking more about what material I have been using during my private study time. The second part of July, when I'm definitely on vacation, I'm going to make sure that I leave a lot of room for flexibility flexibility. So honestly, my good enough definition of the study time that I want to dedicate to Arabic will be only 30 minutes of dedication on weekdays only. Weekends will stay free. And depending on how busy I was during the day, I might just not have a lot of energy to learn Arabic. So my 30 minutes per day honestly might just look like reading through past notes for about 30 minutes, or revisiting an old app program, which is Mingo Languages for me. Probably the best app that I have found that is specifically made to learn Levantine Arabic. I can usually finish a lesson in just 5 minutes, and they also have a really nice vocabulary section where you can review all of your previously learned lessons vocabulary too. It also includes reading and listening exercises. So on days when I just don't feel like turning to my textbook, I know that I will already have another resource that is a little bit more engaging and different than my base resource, especially on days when I'm low energy. That brings us to our final third month, which is August. At this point, I expect to be finishing book 3, but not being completely finished with it because it's probably gonna have a lot of new material that I will need to learn, and slowly progressing to book 4. Now, this month will be most intensive Arabic focused, and I know my days will be very flexible for this month just because I will have finished entirely my vacation and I will be done with my Turkish classes. Due to this, I am expecting around 3 to 4 hours per day of Arabic study. And of course, in terms of using the books, for book 4, I will make the same list of taking notes for vocab, for expressions, for grammar, reviewing notes from my books 1 to 3 about 4 times per week after my study sessions for book 4. I'll also be including Mingo Languages Review, again because it's an engaging tool and it helps me review the fundamental vocabulary that I'll need in Jordan. I'll be watching Made as well as Jinn, which is a series where I'll definitely be listening to a lot of native speakers at this point, just whenever I feel like it, maybe in my free time outside of study sessions. And then I will continue listening to Syrian Arabic voices, as well as starting to use more of Levantine Arabic readers that are also produced by Lingualism, that also have the transcript in Arabic, as well as the recorded voices reading the text. Again, this is all done with the aim to really diversify where my listening is coming. Plus, I will be writing 2 texts per week for August, and including 3 60-minute long lessons per week. Again, concentrating on first correcting my writing, and then also expanding on the topics that I was concentrating on during my private study and getting more comfortable about how I talk about them in my actual conversation classes. After that, my placement exam will take place at the end of the month in August. I honestly do not expect to finish book 4 by the time I take placement exam, again because book 4 is more oriented towards B2, and that's actually the class that I want to test into when I get to my language institute. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself to make sure I finish it. And I think that with all of this being said, yes, you know, I have a really good plan to pan all of this out, to imagine how the process will go. However, I know that I'm also just doing a lot in my personal life on top of studying Arabic. In fact, I totally expect something will happen that will probably interrupt the really nicely laid out plans that I have presented to you here. And something that I want to prioritize more in my language learning this year is to keep the pressure on myself low. Yes, I have more flexible time to learn languages this year, but that does not mean that just because I can do something on a certain day doesn't mean that I have to, or that it's really the most sustainable thing for me to do that day. Because honestly, as I said before, my energy levels go up and down so much as a language learner, no matter if I feel like I have more time for language study or less. So I always like to show kindness to myself and really think about, okay, what is your bare minimum for learning Arabic today? Even 15 minutes doing 1% each day is going to get you to a productive place, instead of beating yourself up for not doing enough, not being productive enough, not sticking to this perfect plan 100%. And I want to remind you guys out there as well, as you follow this plan, it is totally natural to have to divert from our plans sometimes. And language learning very much is an exercise in how flexible we can be and how willing we are able to forgive ourselves in times where we can't follow through with our plans exactly as we imagined. So take inspiration from this plan, but also a reminder, even though you may also have a tight deadline for your language learning, be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace on the days to adjust things around. I hope sharing my plan was helpful for you guys. I will see you in another video very soon.